Hello everyone, welcome back to our AI voice assistant project. In today's video, we're taking the next step towards creating our very own virtual assistant. We'll be diving into the front-end development using React and NextJS, which will allow our app to interact with the backend code we built in the previous video. As a quick recap, in the previous video, we set up our development environment and built the backend for our virtual assistant, which utilizes AI models from OpenAI to process audio and generate responses. Now it's time to give our virtual assistant a user-friendly interface for seamless interaction. So previously, this is what we built. We built the backend side for our project. Now we're going to develop the front-end app using React and Next.js. As I said previously, for achieving this, we're going to use React and Next.js to build our front-end app. And so this is the React dev, the official documentation for React, and we're going to use Next.js to build our app. So for using the documentation, we're going to use this command to set up our Next.js project, which is going to be the front-end side for our application. Okay, perfect. So here in the terminal, I'm going to paste the command that we copied from react.dev website. npx create next app. So you're gonna create a basic Next.js project to be our front-end application. So the project name is gonna be AI voice assistant, but this is totally up to you. Yes, I want to use TypeScript. Yes, I want to use ESLint. Source directory, no app, experimental, default alias. Perfect. Now we have a basic Next.js project. So let's go into it. cd AI voice assistant, and then I'm gonna open up the project using VS Code. Yes, I trust the authors. Let me increase this, make it easy for you to see it. So this is our project, which is a basic Next.js project. So here I'm gonna open up the terminal and then start the project by using the dev command here. Perfect. Let's open the project on the browser. So here on the browser, I'm gonna open up the port 3000. And this is our new project created by Next.js and React. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to the source, to the index file. I'm gonna remove a few stuff here. I'm going to remove everything from main to make it clean. Remove this. Let's go back to the project. So you can see that now it's an empty page. Let me rename the title. Instead of create next app, now it's going to be AI voice assistant. Now you can see the title here. Perfect. So on the styles main, I'm going to change a few things here. Let's go to the home module. So for the gradient background that you saw on the demonstration, I'm going to add this, a radial gradient. So now I have the radial gradient I saw on the demonstration. Let's keep going. So here in the project, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a new folder here. I'm gonna delete this API folder, I'm not gonna use it. So I'm gonna create here a new folder called components. And besides this, before we keep going, I'm going to add some libraries that we're going to use on the project. So for recording audio voice from the user, we're going to use a library called React Audio Voice Recorder. So this is the package that we're going to use for listening to the user. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say yarn add and this. And besides this, I'm going to also use React loading for display the loading bar while the front end is waiting for the back end to process the AI response. On the demonstration, I used Material UI instead of this package, but Material UI is a more robust library, more indicated for big applications. And since this is a very tiny application, so there's no need to add Material UI, but this is totally up to you. The package that I used before, it was this one, progress, and then the linear and indeterminate progress. This is what I used on the demonstration, but for making it more simple, I'm gonna use the React loading library, this one. So I'm gonna copy this and then install it here. Perfect. Now let's keep going with our components. So here I'm gonna create a folder called Voice Assistant, and then here we're gonna create the voice assistant.component.tsx. For now, just return null, and we export it by default. Remove this, import the voice assistant, and paste it here. Let's rerun our project. Let's go back to the browser, refresh it. There's nothing here because I didn't add anything here on the voice assistant. But if I say, for example, div AI voice assistant, then you should see something. Let's keep going. So the next thing that I'm going to create is the avatar, which is basically the image. Voice assistant avatar. For now, just return null. So I'm going to import it here. So on the avatar, I already uploaded an image to emGore, so you can just reuse it if you prefer. Now if you go back here, you can see the image. So this is the avatar. Now let's create another component to record the user's voice. I'm gonna call it the voice recorder .component.tsx. Now just return null, and then we export it by default. And I put it here. Besides this, I'm also going to create a new CSS module. I'm going to call it voice assistant.module.css. So here I'm going to create a basic CSS class, voice assistant component. I'm going to use display flex. The flex direction is going to be a column. And I want to align the content. Perfect. Let's keep going. So here I'm going to import this new CSS module, and the class name is going to be styles on the CSS class that we created, which is this one. Perfect. Now let's develop our voice recorder. So here I'm going to import two things from the package that we installed. From the React audio voice recorder, I'm going to import the audio recorder component and the use audio recorder, which is the custom hook that they provide. I'm going to use it here, and I'm also going to define the attributes I'm going to pass to this component by using interface. Voice recorder props. This is going to be the parameters that we pass to this voice recorder component to interact with its internal components. So this is going to be the code. I'm going to define a function into this interface and then import it here. So basically what we are doing here, this is our voice recorder. It's complaining here because now we need to pass some function. We're gonna do this in a moment. So So this is the recorder controls, which is a custom hook defined by the React audio voice recorder. And this is the recorder component itself. So here what we are doing, when the audio is not being recorded, we hide the button to stop recording. But so by default, we're just gonna see the audio recorder component, and once the user starts recording the voice, and then we display the button to stop recording. When the user clicks to stop recording it, this function on recording complete will be triggered to send the audio data as a blob object. Now let me just define something here. Just an empty function for now, for stop complaining about it. So the flow is, now have this button that we display for the user to click and start recording it. When the user starts recording the voice, we click here, for example, now it's recording the user's voice. And whenever I'm saying it's recording it, and then I click to stop recording it, once we click on the stop button, it's going to trigger this function to send the voice data as a blob object to the parent component using this function. So this is the function which is going to receive the data, the audio data from the user. So besides this, I'm also going to define something here. I'm going to define a use voice assistant.hook.ts. So this is going to be our custom hook for holding the logic. Use voice assistant. Perfect. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to define the function for handling the user voice from the user. User voice recorded. This is up to you. It's going to be async for making some API calls in a moment that we're going to define. And it receives the user audio data, which is a blob object. And then we return this function from the custom hook. Perfect. And then here we import the custom hook, use voice assistant. And the user voice recorded, and then we pass it to this function. Perfect. So once the recorder completes recording it, it's going to call this function. We pass the data to the parent component into this function defined here. So what we're going to do here as well, I'm going to import some custom hooks from React. I'm going to use the use state. Use state. This is going to be the loading to indicate that the front end is waiting for the backend to process the AI output, which is a boolean, is waiting AI output, set is waiting AI output. Perfect. So we're going to return this here, and here we set this to true. Let's keep going. So now I'm going to define something here. I'm going to define the services folder, which is going to contain the code for calling the backend side. And then I'm going to define the AI voice assistant.service.ts. And this is going to be the code. So here I'm using the default fetch library from React. We receive the blob object, and then we define a file object using the blob data, and then we create a form data, and then we pass the form data to the fetch request, and then it's sent to the backend, and then we receive back a blob object. Okay, so let's keep going. Here on our custom hook, I'm going to import the function that we just defined, and this is asynchronous, so I need to wait. And then we pass the blob data as a parameter, and the result we're going to define here. If the result was correctly defined, then what we're going to do. Besides this, I also need to say that since the function returned, we're not waiting for the AI reply anymore. So I pass here to false. And if the result was defined, let's define another parameter here to hold the URL for the AI reply that we're going to create. It's a use state. This is going to be undefined. And the type is a string or undefined. So this is going to be the last AI reply URL. And the set, the same thing, just capitalize here. Perfect. So the URL comes from here, URL.create object URL, and then we pass the result as a parameter, which is our blob. So here we are creating a URL from the blob result, and then we set the last AI reply URL as the URL. Perfect. So here we return this. Let's create something else. I'm also going to create a function to handle when the auto AI reply finishes playing. On audio play end. Basically set the last AI reply URL to be undefined again. And then we return this to. Perfect. So here on the component, this one, I'm also going to do something else. Here I'm going to import the React loading, the package that we installed at the beginning of the project. And if we are waiting for the AI reply, then we display the React loading component. Perfect. So if we are waiting the AI reply output, then we display this. Besides this, I'm also going to create another component here, which is going to be the audio player. Then we define the component. So what we're going to do here, we're going to define the component audio player. Then we just return null. We export it by default. Define the parameters that we pass to it as an interface. What we're going to pass? Two things. The auto file URL, which is an optional string because it might be defined or not. And a function to be called when the auto stops playing at the end of it. And this is going to be our code. Perfect, that's it. So when we have an auto file URL, we define an audio tag on the code, and then we say that it should be played automatically. And once it finishes playing, we call this function, and then we pass this URL as an attribute for the source. That's it. Now let's import this to the previous component. Let's import the last auto file URL and the function that handles once it stops playing. Auto file URL, which is this, and the function to handle once the auto finishes playing. Perfect. Now let's take a look again, refresh this. Let me go back to the CSS and just make a small change here. I'm going to add a small gap of 10 pixels between every component. Let me increase it a bit more to be 20. Okay, great. So that's it. Let me save a few things here just to be sure that everything is saved and ready to be used on the browser. And that's pretty much it. Now let's go back to the backend application and start it to be used here. So here I'm gonna start the backend project that we developed in the previous video. UVcorn main app. Perfect. Now the backend is running. Let's go back to the front end and to the browser. Let me refresh this. Okay, perfect. Let's test our application. So I'm gonna click here and say, "Hello, who are you?"
Hello. I am an AI model developed by OpenAI. Specifically, I am a language model designed to engage in conversation with humans. I've been trained on a massive dataset of text to help me understand and respond to a wide range of topics and questions. How may I assist you?
And that's it. As you can see, our front-end app is running and working perfectly. So to recap, this is what we developed in the entire project. We as a user sends a message to the front-end application, we send the voice data to the backend, and the backend app processes the entire request and returns back to us an object with the audio from the AI, and then we play the audio file from the browser. And that's it. Now we have an AI voice assistant using the ChatGPT models that can do things for you and assist you on your own very tasks. If you like this kind of content, just give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you liked it, and I see you in the next time.